This is an AI podcast that I made from my handbook for angels, Accountable Innocent book, and then also my own autobiography. And they're talking about both. And they're making reference to my early childhood, babyhood memories. They don't mention that I remember that because of associative memory when I had classical music played for me constantly from a little stack of 45 records. So when I hear the pieces, I remember that time before ego, before the concept of self. So with that in mind, please listen.
You know that feeling, right? That constant human struggle. Maybe it's wrestling with guilt or always pushing yourself, like striving for self-improvement or finding it really hard to genuinely be kind, even just to yourself. Like true peace or real kindness is always just out of reach somehow.
Yeah, like an uphill battle you can't quite win.
Exactly. Well, today in the deep dive, we're going to explore something a bit different. A pretty radical but maybe profoundly simple shift in how we see things.
Okay.
Our mission really is to unpack our ideas about the self, about guilt, compassion, and maybe find a way to express ourselves more effortlessly.
So not about doing more.
No, that's the key. It's not about trying harder. It seems to be about being something foundational that might just change the whole picture.
Interesting.
And we've got two really fascinating sources to help us dig into this. First, there is a handbook for angels. Innocence, compassion, and expression. Lots of profound ideas in there. And then we'll look at Nothing Was Ever Missing by Philip McManus. This one's a really personal story, an account of living in this state of being.
The personal experience angle. Good.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see how they connect, maybe untangle some of those knots we carry around inside.
Well, I think this deep dive is really an invitation, isn't it? Not to add a new technique or skill, but maybe just to question some basic assumptions we hold about ourselves.
Assumptions, right?
Yeah, about our inner world. The idea being that the real treasure, maybe what you're searching for, it was actually never lost. It's been here all along.
Okay, never lost.
Yeah.
Let's start there. There's this tension, this difficulty. The Handbook for Angels points out right away. It asks, and I'm quoting here, many teachers speak of self-compassion as the way. Yet how can one be compassionate to a self still believed to be guilty?
That hits hard, doesn't it?
It really does. It's not just theoretical. It gets right at why being kind to ourselves often feels, like pulling teeth.
It's a paradox, exactly. If your baseline belief is, I'm somehow guilty, I'm flawed, then any compassion feels like you're, papering over cracks.
Yeah, like you don't deserve it, maybe.
Precisely. It becomes effort, like you're trying to apply a bandage when you still think the wound itself is justified. The source suggests this underlying belief in guilt is the real block. It makes real self-compassion feel like constant hard work.
So if guilt is the problem, the block, then the book points to innocence as the solution, the absolute key.
Right.
It says compassion without innocence is effort. Compassion with innocence is breath.
Wow, that's quite a difference.
It's huge. The distinction is stark, isn't it? Effort versus breath.
Yeah.
One is trying, forcing, doing. The other just happens.
And breathing. You don't try to breathe.
Exactly. Compassion rooted in the sense of, I'm fundamentally okay. I'm innocent at my core. Well, that kind of compassion isn't something you do to fix yourself. It's just there. It expresses itself naturally. Like an exhale, as the book says, takes away that internal fight. Which brings us to this really vivid analogy they use. Innocence is the top pickup stick. When lifted, the whole tangle of ego collapses.
The pickup sticks game. Yeah.
Rid of that.
Yeah.
The whole pile looks impossible. It's just a total mess. But you find that one loose stick on top.
And if you lift it carefully,
the whole thing just falls apart.
Yeah.
Effortlessly. So think about that tangle of self-doubt, the striving, the inner critic, feeling like you need fixing.
Yeah.
What if recognizing your own foundational innocence could just unravel all of that just by lifting that one stick?
It's a powerful image. And that idea of the ego collapsing, it's not about destroying your personality, I don't think.
No. What is it then?
It's more about dissolving your identification with that constructed self. The ego is that whole tangled web of beliefs and stories. I'm not good enough. I need to fix this. I'm guilty because of that.
All that internal chatter.
Exactly. That whole structure is built on the idea of a guilty, flawed self that needs work.
Yeah.
If you lift the innocent stick, if you recognize that inherent okayness, Well, the foundation for that whole tangled structure just disappears. And that changes everything, right? The experience shifts from constantly trying to be something else to just being. And that changes how you are in the world, how you interact.
Okay, so innocence opens the door. It lets compassion flow naturally like breathing. What about this idea of intention versus expression? The handbook makes another key distinction here.
It does. It talks about intention belonging to what it calls the dream of two.
The dream of two. What does that mean?
It implies separation. There's the me now and the better me I'm intending to become in the future.
Okay. The striving again.
Exactly. It's phrases like, I will try, I will improve, I will heal. Notice it's all future focused. It's effort directed towards a goal. It's still rooted in that idea that something's not quite right now.
Right. There's a gap between who I am and who I think I should be.
Precisely. It implies lack. It keeps you on that treadmill, always reaching for a future state instead of just being fully present. Always aiming for something other than what is.
Okay, so that's intention. How does expression differ then?
Well, the source describes expression beautifully, I think. It's here, now.
Here, now.
And it's love unfolding without effort, like fragrance from a flower.
Oh, that's lovely, like fragrance from a flower.
Yeah, that image really captures it, doesn't it? It's spontaneous, natural. It's not forced. It's just a byproduct of what's already there, of the being itself. The flower doesn't try to smell nice.
It just does.
It just does. And that's the practical difference in life. When compassion flows as expression, it's not something you have to work up or force yourself to feel.
Right.
Kindness, love, understanding. They just arise from who you are. It shifts everything from trying to do good or be better to just being. And the source ties it back. When innocence is known, compassion flows as expression, not intention.
Okay, so knowing innocence allows this natural expression. It's one thing to talk about it, but how does someone live this? Which brings us to Philip McManus.
Right, his book, Nothing Was Ever Missing. And he also wrote the other handbook for angels you mentioned, the one subtitled Accountable Innocence, focused on removing guilt and shame.
Yes, so his personal story seems really relevant here. He talks about this unshakable center, an eye that was just always there.
It's really compelling because he describes it not as a theory, but as a direct memory. He says, from the beginning, before language, before identity, I was simply here.
Simply here.
Not as a someone, not as a self, but as being itself. Aware, intact, silent, just pure being, before any labels or personal story got attached.
Wow. He talks about remembering infancy, doesn't he? Before words, before knowing he was Philip.
Mm-hmm. He remembers moving with something older than memory, just watching from the beginning and his observation. No ego then. No Philip. Just sensation, just sound, just being.
Just being. Pure awareness.
Yeah, it points to this essential nature that exists before all the conditioning, before the layers get added on. He says the identity, Philip, it kind of materialized like a crystal forming from a solution of feelings.
That's a fascinating image.
It took a shape, a name, a personality. But here's the crucial part. He says the core I was separate. I was never inside that shape. I watched it take form.
He watched it form, like an observer.
Exactly. This watching presence seems to be the constant thread, the unchanging part of his experience.
And he says even when things were painful, he stayed as that watcher.
Yes, he puts it so clearly. But even in pain, I remained what I always was, that which watches. I was not what was happening. I was the field it happened in.
The field it happened in, not the happening itself.
Powerful, isn't it? He wasn't the pain. He was the space, the awareness in which the pain arose and passed, untouched.
So can you imagine a part of yourself like that? Something that just watches, unmoved by whatever's going on?
And that watching presence, that's what connects directly back to this idea of foundational innocence we were talking about.
How so?
Because it's a self that exists before and separate from the conditioned ego, the Philip that formed. This pre-ego awareness, this silent being, it's always whole, always intact, always unshakable, as he says.
So that's the inherent wholeness. So it was never actually damaged by life events or stories about them.
Exactly. It's the field. The events are just weather patterns passing through.
What's really striking, though, is when McManus talks about realizing others don't remember this, even spiritual seekers. He mentions monks.
Right, monks he met in the Himalayas. He observed them, he says, trying to overcome ego with ego, like a spiritual wrestling match with a ghost.
Trying to fight the ego, using the ego.
Yeah, and his conclusion was just incredibly simple. They weren't pretending. They didn't remember.
I didn't remember.
Wow.
So it wasn't lost, just forgotten.
That seems to be his core insight. It's radical. And about his own experience, he says, I didn't learn this. It was this.
It was this.
And crucially, I never stopped being it. It wasn't something he attained or achieved.
Not an attainment.
No. He says, I didn't arrive. I simply never departed. That just flips the whole script on spiritual seeking as a journey towards something, doesn't it?
It really does. It challenges our whole model of personal growth, the idea that we need to become something better. He insists it's not complicated either.
No, not at all. He describes it as simpler than breath, quieter than thought.
Simpler than breath.
It's what you are before you try to become anything. It's not some lofty, hard-to-reach state. It's utterly simple. It's right here. Always.
So it's not about understanding or believing even. It's just experiencing.
That's the sense you get. He calls it the silent presence that remains when the idea of self dissolves like salt in warm water.
Dissolve like salt in warm water.
That constructed self, that ego tangle, just dissolves, revealing what was underneath all along, that silent foundational I.
Which leads to his ultimate point. That beautiful summary, nothing was ever missing. Not even you. It's so simple, but it lands with such weight, it turns everything upside down.
And that idea, that pathless path McManus describes, it perfectly validates what the Handbook for Angels said about effortless compassion and expression, doesn't it?
How do you see them connecting there?
Well, if you recognize this inherent state, this innocence that never departed, then compassion isn't something you need to generate through intention or effort anymore.
Ah, right.
It just flows. It's a natural expression of who you fundamentally are, of that silent presence that was, well, never missing in the first place. The striving just stops.
Okay, so, wow. We've covered some really deep ground today. We started with that idea of innocence as the key, the top pickup stick.
Allowing compassion to become effortless expression, not effortful intention.
Right. And then we heard Philip McManus's incredible story, his firsthand account of this foundational being, that silent watcher that was always there, even before identity formed.
Always present, never lost.
Which leads to that really profound takeaway. Nothing was ever missing. It's not about finding something new to add to yourself or fixing some perceived flaw.
No, it's about recognition.
Yeah, recognizing what's always been there, whole and complete, right inside you. So maybe a question to leave you with as you go about your day. If nothing was ever missing, if you've always been, as McManus puts it, the field it happened in.
Yeah.
What does that actually mean for how you face your challenges right now, how you deal with difficulties? Or even just how you understand who you are, fundamentally?
It's a big question. Maybe just sit with it for a moment. Don't try to figure it out intellectually, perhaps.
Just sit with it.
Yeah. Maybe just notice. See if you can sense that quiet, silent presence that's here before the next thought, before the next feeling, and just wonder, what might the world look like from there?
Well, you've gotten this this recording in the midst of jets flying and heavy equipment backing up, but it's quite organic. Thanks for being